My mom went out for a drive and came back. Different. I don't think she is my mom anymore. Hey honey, I'm thinking of heading out for a drive. Care to join me? My mother said. Glancing up, I responded, thanks mom, but I'll pass. Where are you headed? I thought I'd take that scenic route through the forest by Rockefeller Mountain, she replied with excitement. All right, have fun, I said. With a kiss on my cheek, my mother departed. Settling into the couch, I grabbed some snacks and began mindlessly watching a movie. The movie, combined with the coziness of the couch, gradually pulled me to sleep. As quick as I fell asleep, an insistent vibration of my phone jerked me back to consciousness. Rubbing my eyes, I picked it up and was met with a series of missed call notifications, all from my mom. I tried returning her calls, but each attempt was met with her voicemail. Glancing at the clock, it read 10:48 p.m. She left at 3:23 p.m. No drive, especially on that trail, would take that long. A storm of thoughts began to rage in my head, each more worrisome than the last. Had she gotten lost? Had the car broken down? Or was it something worse? As these thoughts raced, I heard the doorbell ring. I sprang from the couch, feet pounding the wooden floor as I raced to the door. The narrow view through the peephole revealed the face of my mother, but something was off. Her eyes, usually so full of warmth, seemed almost hollow. Swinging the door open, my voice was a mix of relief and frustration. Where have you been all this time? She met my gaze, those unsettling eyes seeming to peer right through me. Silent, she brushed past me with an air of detachment, making her way to her room without uttering a word. The next day was somewhat normal. I found her in the kitchen, going through the familiar routine of preparing breakfast, but there was a change in her demeanor. Our usual conversations were absent, replaced by silence. As I readied myself for work, I tried to bridge the gap. Hey mom, I'm heading off to work. See you later. All I received was a nod, a silent acknowledgement. I got off of work late, and pulled into the driveway at 3 a.m. I crept into the house, not wanting to wake my mom. I tiptoed through the dimly lit halls towards the kitchen to grab some snacks and take them to my room. But when I flicked on the kitchen light, there she was, my mom, standing still, staring outside the window towards our backyard. The sight took me aback. Mom? Why are you up? What are you looking at? I waited for a reply, but silence hung in the air. Shrugging it off, I said, work was alright today. Left a bit early after some friends took off. While grabbing my stuff from the fridge, I couldn't help but ask, you okay, Mom? She answered, still staring out at the yard, yes, okay. The way she spoke was odd. It was too upbeat, like she was thrilled about something. It didn't fit the moment at all. It was just off. Grabbing my snacks, I headed straight to my room, leaving the kitchen lights on for her. Morning came with the familiar smell of breakfast. On weekends, Mom would cook since there was no rush for work. I headed downstairs, calling out, good morning. I grabbed some juice and sat. She replied cheerily, good morning sweetie, looking like her usual self. She asked about work and how I slept. I wanted to remind her we'd talked the night before, but I didn't. I repeated what I'd said, and she acted like it was new information. We chatted more, then settled to eat. As I sliced into my pancakes, something caught my eye. I pulled out a tiny, gleaming sewing needle from the soft center. My heart raced as I held it up, asking, Mom, what's this? I held the needle aloft, the sharp point catching the light. This was in my pancakes, I stammered. Looking at it, her face reflected genuine concern. She hurriedly assured me, I'm so sorry. I'd never want to hurt you. Truly. Her embrace was warm and comforting. Don't eat any more of that. I'll whip up a new one. Her words almost made me feel guilty for suspecting her. It was just so bizarre that doubt naturally crept in. The day proceeded without another hitch. I climbed into bed around 10:30 p.m. As a kid, I had a paralyzing fear of the dark. To combat this, my mom had placed 2 nightlights, one in my room and another in the hallway. Though my room was now devoid of the light, the hallway still had its comforting glow. Awakening for a sip of water, I froze. The glow from under my door was intermittently obscured. A shadow. Someone stood there. Stifling my breath, I watched it for what felt like an eternity, the shadow unwavering. Mom? I said softly. There was no reply. Instead, the shadow receded, gliding silently towards her room. Morning found me weary. The haunting shadow, the weight of eyes on me, made sleep impossible. I confronted her at breakfast. Mom, were you outside my room? Around 3 a.m.? She evaded the question. Instead, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Do you remember letting me brush your hair when you were little? Let's do that now. Beside the sink, conditioner and a brush awaited. Recent events screamed caution, but this was my mom. I relented, sinking into the familiarity of her touch. As she worked on my hair, time melted away. Our conversation continued as she rinsed my hair. But as I was talking, I suddenly felt a hard grip tighten in my hair. Without warning, my head was forced into the water filling the sink. Panic overtook me as my head was held under. It's surprising how weak you feel in a situation like this, with your mind racing and someone using their entire weight to hold you down by the back of your head. My arms flailed, at times trying to push myself up using the edges of the kitchen counter. After what felt like an eternity, the grip released. Gasping and coughing, I pulled my head out of the water and spun around to confront my mother. What the F are you doing? I yelled while trying to make sense of what just happened. That was the first time I actually cussed at my mom. She started laughing, pointing at me with one hand while the other kept slapping her knee. I got you. You should have seen your face. Staring in shock, My displeasure was clear enough that her laughter faded, replaced by a look of concern. Come on, don't be upset. It was just a joke. She stepped closer, arms open for a hug. I quickly sidestepped, keeping distance between us. I was genuinely afraid. It was at this moment I realized something was terribly off about her. In fact, I began to doubt if she was really my mother at all. From then on, I became distant. Our conversations were minimal, only out of necessity. I began to avoid meals, spending more time locked in my room. Those eerie nights when she'd stand outside my door persisted. It was like clockwork, always around the same hour. And every night, after a while, the shadow would recede. She stopped going to work altogether. During the day, she'd be in the backyard engaged in strange activities, digging random holes, thrusting a trowel into the ground, or just standing there, seemingly talking to herself, though I could never make out the words. However, last night's event is one that will forever be etched in my memory. Before drifting to sleep, I recall praying for an uninterrupted night's rest. The mere sight of her shadow under my door had become a haunting and fearsome nightly ordeal. I found myself jolted awake in the pitch blackness of my room. Reluctantly, I shifted my gaze to the bottom of my door. As I feared, her shadow was there. She was standing just outside, silent as ever. I tried to force myself back to sleep, but given the circumstances, sleep eluded me. Then, something different occurred. A knock. 7 soft, deliberate knocks. After the knocks, silence consumed the room. Lying there, fear paralyzed me. What was different tonight? Why did she decide to knock now? A chilling thought struck me. My door didn't have a lock. It never did, even from my childhood. The last semblance of a barrier between us wasn't even secured. The eerie knocks resumed, more insistent this time. Reacting instinctively, I pulled the covers over my head, clinging to those childhood beliefs of safety. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't protect me now. The sound of the door creaking open made my heart pound harder. I braced myself, waiting for the sound of footsteps, but there were none. Had she retreated? Or was she just standing there, watching? Minutes dragged on in terrifying silence. Then suddenly, there was a rapid, scuttling noise. It sounded impossibly fast, moving from the floor to the walls, to the ceiling. The entire room echoed with it. Blind terror overcame me, thoughts racing uncontrollably. Is she crawling on all fours? How is she moving so fast? What is she doing? Am I going to die? These fears consumed me until darkness took over. Whether from stress or sheer panic, I lost consciousness. When morning light finally greeted me, my room was a mess, everything thrown into chaos. It was nowhere in sight. Did it leave? Is it still in the house? These questions remain unanswered. Gathering my courage, I finally left the safety of my bed and managed to prop a chair against the door for some semblance of security. I'm at a loss for what to do next or whom to turn to. But one thing is certain, I can't spend another night here.